Welcome to the Empowered Team podcast. I'm your host, Kari Schneider, and today I'm going to make change easier for you. Yes, easier. We all know change is hard. Why? We resist change, our function in survival for so long as human beings means that we want to stay comfortable. So today I'm going to give you 3 questions that are going to help make change easier. And I don't know about you, but usually a new year brings a fresh start, and we might want to do some things that create some change in our lives, whether it's your business, your family, whatever it is for you. I bet if you're growing, there's going to be some change in your life. So what do? We want to make it as easy as possible. This is part of our inner game series. For self-mastery, there's this inner game, there's this interactive game out in the world. So how we interact with other people, situations. And then there's also our action game. What are we actually doing in our action? Well, in order to have change, we have to do things differently. But it starts with the inner game. So in this series, we've done the power of questions. The last episode, if you haven't listened in, go listen to it right now. It's the 3 questions for pause. This episode is the 3 key questions for change. And our next podcast episode in this inner game, the power of questions, is going to be the 3 questions for action. So let's dive in today, the 3 questions you need for change so you're not changing and fighting yourself the whole way, which ends up making change almost impossible. You end up reverting back to what you did before because it was so hard. We don't want that. We want change to be as smooth as possible because then it's more likely to stick. Now, the hard path, of course, you're always going to have to take a hard path, especially when something's new. It's going to feel harder than normal. But I want to give you some tools, some things that are going to help you when change gets sticky, when change gets a little hard. So that's what we're going to do, the 3 questions in order to really make change as easy as possible because you're not going to be fighting yourself. You go with yourself. Let's dive in. All right, today. One thing about change that people get mistaken, it's about awareness. Now, a lot of people think that because they discovered the thing that was stopping them, because they discovered what the problem is, that somehow will lead them to change. And often it's a great catalyst, but many times it simply doesn't. Awareness is not the same as change. Awareness often is that prerequisite, that thing that's necessary in many, many cases. However, it is not the thing that's going to make you change. So we want, if we're going to make change in our lives, whether it's a habit, whether it's how we interact, whether it's a change in our businesses or our families, if we're going to make a change, we're typically aware of what happens first, but then we kind of, take the foot off the gas pedal because we think we've understood what needs to happen or what the problem is or the bigger picture. That's awareness. Awesome. Really important. However, it doesn't mean you're going to change your habits. So what can we do to help us change our habits? Awareness is powerful, really, really powerful, but it doesn't make the behavior change. Most people know what to do. Most people know if they eat healthier, they're going to be healthier. Most people know if they do certain things in their business, it's going to help their business, yet they may not do those actions. So awareness is not going to get you there. It's going to be really important to help you, but not get you there. If pause creates space, change is the thing that you do with that space. It's when action meets that new space of awareness. That's what happens. So change requires clarity. Change requires, and that clarity comes from awareness. Change requires a replacement or a difference in behavior. And it also requires one other thing. It requires meaning. It has to matter to you somehow. It requires some level of importance to you. Why does this thing have to happen? Why does this thing matter? Why is it important to you? And this is very, very subjective. Do not think that the why is the same for everybody in your family or everybody in your business or the people that you're going to interact with. It's just not. Because we can get frustrated when we're trying to change. Other people are coming at us and they're doing something different that is not aligned with what we want to change in. And that creates some friction. But the truth is that what matters to us is subjective to our narrative of the world, our experiences, our perspective. So don't think that even if you found what's really important to you, that other people are going to cooperate with that, because that's typically not the case. So what can you do? This is why the inner game matters so much. What can you do to support change to be the easiest it can possibly be? It's going to start with questions. It's going to start with understanding yourself, but asking yourself these questions so that it can be the catalyst for change, something really, really key to make the difference. Remember that the reason we're asking the questions is because we're guiding the inner game. This is going to be our brain. We're guiding our brain because our brain exists to continue and perpetuate patterns. What we want to do is, when we're changing, what we're asking the brain to do is take a familiar pattern and make it obsolete or different. Our brains do not like to do that. So remember that if our brain prefers a familiar pattern, one of the ways that we disrupt that is by a simple question. We want it to be simple. We want it to be powerful so that it can be easy for you to disrupt that familiar pattern in your brain to be something different. Simply removing a behavior creates discomfort. Changing a pattern creates discomfort. Doing a pattern or a habit differently creates discomfort for our brain and then our emotional state. So typically, in order for change to be sticky, make it last, it not only needs a replacement for that behavior or pattern or habit, but it also needs a reason. So we've got some new behavior, but we've also got why it's really important. This is going to be key when we get to our questions. We don't change by just stopping the behavior. We change by, when I say replacement, it's not just any old replacement. It's choosing a better one and knowing why it matters. Okay, so let's dive into the 3 questions that are going to turn awareness into intentional change. It's going to turn what we already understand, what we already want, what we already know, what we're already being able to see into something that's actually going to stick and an action that's going to turn into your future that you want. We don't want to fight ourselves during it. So question number 1 is this: what do I want? Really simple. What do I want? And the key here is that you are honest. Because in the moment that you're looking to change, chances are you're actually wanting some sort of impulsive thing that has to do with the old pattern. I've exited and sold my business. I have clients who have sold their businesses. And I cannot tell you how hard it is in that environment to not keep doing the same things that happened in the old business. So let's say in my case, I left and exited the business to have a greater impact in other areas. But my behaviors were still conducive to the old business and not conducive to having greater impact in other areas of life. So how do you go and change that when you're still in those same old patterns? It starts by asking the question, what do I want? Now, let's say you're really honest with yourself and what you want is a break. Or let's say put it in the context of food. You know you want to change your eating habits. You know you want it to be for the better for your health or whatever your reasons are. And when you ask the question, what do I want? The answer is a hot fudge sundae. Be honest with yourself. I want a hot fudge sundae. This is where the question is critical to be followed with the second question, because we want the honesty, but in a reflective state, so that you can take a look and not just act on the old pattern, not just act on the old impulse. The old impulse was to run my business this way. Well, I'm not looking to do that anymore. I'm looking to run the business in a different way, or interact with the family in a different way, or eat in a different way. So instead of fighting myself and going, well, don't eat that hot fudge sundae, you don't even want that, be honest with yourself. This says, what do I want? I want a break. I want to keep doing the things the way they used to be done. I want a hot fudge sundae. If you in that moment say, I want to change the world, and it's honest, then great. But be honest with yourself. When you ask the question, what do I want? Answer it honestly. Because when you do, it gives yourself permission to become aware of what's running you in that moment. It pulls you out of the moment, the impulse, into intention. Oh, I want a hot fudge sundae. Meanwhile, you're running around the kitchen looking for everything sweet, denying that you want a hot fudge sundae. Meanwhile, in the business, you keep doing things like they've always been done, denying that that's what you want, trying to act as though you want the change in the business. So acknowledge in the moment, let's say it's in a relational context, in the moment you want to yell at the other person because they're not listening to you. Maybe that's what you want in the moment. Acknowledge what the moment is asking you for, because then you're acknowledging the old patterns. So many people believe that if they give any sort of time or attention to the thing that they don't want, then it's going to control you. And the reverse is true. What holds true in behavioral studies is that when we acknowledge what we actually want, it holds less power over us. We can see it. We're not blind to it. We're not trying to ignore it, stuff it, avoid it, make it as though it's not there. We're like, I'm angry. Oh, I want to keep doing the same thing. Oh, I crave a hot fudge sundae. If anyone's craving a hot fudge sundae, just because I've said it so much right now, I apologize for that, because now I'm like, it's really cold outside, but I still kind of would like that hot fudge. Holy cow. So it pulls people out of the moment and into intention. It separates reaction from the desired result. And you may have that answer being, what do I want? I want to change the world. I want more positive impact out there. I want to eat and desire amazing foods that keep me healthy. I want to have loving interactions with all the people that I interact with on any given time, at any given moment. So that can be part of what you want too. Usually if you acknowledge the things that are the impulsive things, it holds space, it gives room, because they're not controlling you anymore. It gives room for the things that you really want, really, really want. So let the question be honest, and you might have to ask the same question 5 times. What do I actually want? What's the outcome I want? What do I want in this moment? What do I want for tomorrow? What do I really want? You might have to ask it 5 times over to get multiple responses that identify the old impulse, the old habit, the thing that you're urging towards right in this moment, the thing you want for your future. But allow yourself to explore, what do I want? That one question. When we are under stress, behavioral science shows that we default to a short-term emotional relief. We're always going to do that. And sometimes we relieve our emotions with an outburst. We relieve our emotions with food. We relieve our emotions with repeating the past. So if we're stressed out, we're always going to default to some sort of emotional relief. By explicitly naming what our desire is right now, the impulse, what our desired future outcome is, it improves our own decision quality. And once we have this clarity of what we really want, the outcome that is our preferred outcome, that's what we really want. When we have that clarity, it activates goal-directed behavior. So those are the actions that are going to get us there. So by all means, ask the question 5 times, well, what do I want? What am I urging to desire right now? But what do I really want? What is my real outcome? Go ahead and ask it all those times so you can discern in a conflict. Do I want to win or do I want to be on the same page? In health, do I want this comfort, this party in my mouth of a hot fudge sundae? Or do I want energy later today and tomorrow? In leadership, do I want control of the situation or do I want growth among my team? Notice, what do I want? Very, very powerful. That's question number 1. And this is what happens. Now we go to question number 2. Because question number 2 helps you when you've had that pattern, that habit, that impulse, whatever it is, it's going to help you and help you in a way that you're not fighting yourself. And all it is what's the better option than that impulse that I had? What's my better option there? And here's the thing. Whatever the impulse was, whatever the pattern was, it is always, always based on the past. The impulse is typically based on the past. Now, you might be thinking in this moment, wait a second, it's not based on the past, it's based on the now, because right now I want that hot fudge sundae. Right now I want to yell at my employee. Right now I want to do the same things that I've always done. You're telling me that right now that's what's really happening. And I'm still going to tell you back, no, what the impulse is always based on the past. And here's why. Because the impulse that you have and what you want to do in this moment is based on some sort of pattern of relief that you've had that was ingrained in the past. The reason the impulse is there is because it felt good or you created some sort of thing that your brain said, yeah, let's repeat that. Let's repeat that. That party in your mouth after you had that emotional sadness, that felt really good. So let's do it. Hot fudge sundae every time you feel sad. Let's go and yell at that person because it gave you some sort of energy release when you felt a lot of energy stress or emotional stress. So that impulse that seems like it's a now thing, it's actually based on the past. And if you want to change, what you're looking to do is create something different than what you've always done. That's what change is. That's why it's uncomfortable. So the question becomes, what can I do right now that's different, that's a better option than what my impulse, my first gut reaction is to do right now? What this question does is it acknowledges the impulse without obeying it. It's giving yourself an option, something different than the thing that you might have always done or the thing you have an urge to do. It gives you that option and knowing that, my brain can be screaming at me to do something and I don't have to do it. I have other options. That's really important. To ask with that question, teach your brain that I have another option that's different what I currently think I have. It keeps the brain flexible rather than restrictive. And I promise you that our brain wants to repeat patterns, so it's going to keep going with the same ones and keep some rigidity around that. But when you ask the question, what's a better option than this current impulse, then it teaches your own brain that I have flexibility. I can pivot around this. I can choose something different, and that's okay. It prevents this all or nothing thinking, this thing that's like, hey, you can do this or that. No, it's not binary. You have 100 different options. I can't tell you how many times I've said that to clients. You right now are acting as though, and I've done this how many times, we're acting as though it's this or that, and it's not. Sure, there's this or that, and these other 100 options, 1,000 options, 10 options. There's so many. But because that can feel hard to choose between so many, that's why our brain says one too many. And we want to go, well, let's just pick one that's a better option than this one. What do you think, brain? Let's try that. Maybe. You don't need the perfect option. You don't need to pick among the 100 or 1,000 options in the scenario. You just need a better one than what you've currently picked or what's been going on in the patterns. That's all. So that's why question number 2 is what's a better option than my first impulse? And here's what the research says. The research says that Habits aren't typically erased. Like I mentioned before, they're replaced with reason. They're replaced in this coupling of what the direction is, what matters to you. So you're putting something else in there. So when you're asking for a better option, that's what's happening. It's offering the brain an alternative that reduces resistance than just saying, stop doing that. And then there's this empty space where your brain's like, well, what do you mean? Stop doing that and then do what? What would I do if I didn't have that? What would I do if I didn't have that pattern? Well, you want to give yourself, your brain, something else to cling on to and make a new pattern. Now, you might be changing, and this is your new pattern. You might change that new pattern in another 6 months. We're teaching the brain how to explore alternatives, how to be flexible, how to not stick with the thing that was always stuck. So change is more successful when people choose options, not just restrictions, not just taking away, not just deprivation. So let's give yourself an option. What's a better option in this scenario? The brain resists. It responds to instead. It resists the don't do this, you can't have that, but instead try this. Think of that with a toddler, because when we're dealing with our brains, it's like dealing with a toddler. How about we try this instead of that? Really, really good approach. All right, so we've got, what do I want? What's the real outcome I want? What is a better option than my first impulse? And the third question, this is so important, so important. I alluded to it earlier, and it is that, why does this matter? Why does this even matter? Why would I want this change at all? Why does it matter? And you can even add 2 little words at the end. Why does this matter to me? Because it's not going to matter to your neighbor. It's not going to matter to everybody in your family or everybody in the workplace. It's going to matter to you. You have your own reasons. You know why it matters to you. So why does this matter to me? This is critical for change, because if this part isn't there, then you're going to keep trying to change and forgetting that there is a drive behind it called your values, who you are, what you want to get up to in life, what really matters to your future self. That's what's in there. Why does this matter to me? This anchors change to values, meaning, and identity. It doesn't make it just about change because you're supposed to, because someone told you to, because you're feeling bad about yourself, because you're beating yourself up. No, it ties it to who you really are, who you're really becoming. That's what it ties to, what you deem is important to you in your life. It activates our intrinsic motivation instead of constantly being driven by what we're supposed to do, our extrinsic motivation. We want more activation of intrinsic motivation, and that's what this question does. This question also connects your behavior, the action that you're about to do, to who you are. I'm the type of person who fosters growth in my employees. I'm the type of person who eats foods for energy. I'm the type of person that matters, it really matters how I interact with others, how they feel after an interaction with me. These are the things that when it's connected to identity, but also long-term consequences, if I'm this person in the world, what will that mean on the impact to others, on the impact to the world? When it's connected to long-term consequences, then the change moves from I really should do this to I choose. Why? Because it matters. I choose. Not I'm supposed to, not I should, not others think I should, but simply because I choose. It matters. You can even take this question further. Why does this matter? Why does this matter to the person I'm becoming? Why does this matter to my future self? Why does this matter to my family? What does this cost me if I don't make this change? Why does this matter to me? Then really, who else is affected by the choices that I'm making? Why does this matter to me? Why does this matter to those I love? Who does it impact on? Why does that matter to me? Because I love them so much. I care about my impact on them. I want to be responsible for my future self and those that I'm impacting. Values-based motivation. This is what's really important about this. Values-based motivation affects your long-term persistence in the new change. So if you want to keep at it, this is one of the hardest things, especially in the first quarter of the year when everybody's made all kinds of great promises to themselves and others. And then all of a sudden they're finding it super hard in mid-February. What? It's that you want the greater persistence. And when it's tied to your values, you're going to have more persistence, meaning increases follow through, especially when there's some challenge or some difficulty that comes in your way. And I promise you, whatever you're trying to change, something's going to show up to make it harder for you. Something's going to be there that feels like, this is so hard to do. But you want the follow through, the increased follow through, because you've got this values-based motivation, because it matters to you because of what you value in your life. People change faster when change is tied to identity over guilt. And yet we act so often as though if we beat ourselves up or we guilt ourselves, that's going to keep us going. And that's so far from the truth. The truth is that if we are tied to who we are or who we want to become, that's more likely to keep the change going. So let's wrap this up, because I really think that this inner game is the thing. And this is the inner game that makes the actions possible. This is the inner game that has you feel aligned and amazing when you're taking your actions. So these questions for change are going to have, this is right in your back pocket. You're going to have these whenever you need it. These 3 simple questions. Remember, anytime you want to choose differently, simply ask, what do I want? What's the outcome I really want? What's the better option than that first impulse? And why does this matter? Why do I want this? Why does this matter to me? Those 3 questions, use them for change. Put them on your fridge if you need to, in front of your desk at work. Put them there when you are really trying to go for something that's going to require different behavior than you've ever done, different behavior than you've done in a long time, different behavior that's required to get the outcomes you really want for yourself or for your life. Use these questions. And if you know somebody who could use these questions too, that you really, really care about, send them this episode, because change is not easy. Help each other out. Support each other. Find someone that you can help ask these questions to when you're buddy-buddy with that change. Maybe it's within a business, within a workout goal, within a family change. You've got this. I've got you. Let's do this together. This is the Empowered Team. Keep it going. This is your self-mastery. This is the game. Let's play it. Keep going. You've got this.